On the latest episode of the Boxing Source radio show that was on Go Long Media and Blog Talk Radio, we went over the card that was at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. Specifically, the two fights that happened on Showtime Sports with the IBF Super Featherweight Championship between Jose Pedraza and Kevonte Davis, plus the Super Middleweight Unification bout, which had the WBC Super Middleweight Champion Badou Jack and the IBF Super Middleweight Champion James DeGale. In the first major segment of the Boxing Source radio show, we went over that IBF Super Featherweight Championship of Jose Pedraza and Javonte Davis, and we pointed out how Javonte Davis was able to take over the fight and get the 7th round knockout, and what's in store for Javonte Davis in the near future.
If I'm gonna just get into it with Showtime Championship Boxing, with the telecast there, of course you had, their team that they had out there, including Paulie Malignaggi and Al Bernstein there, and so they were there to cover these couple of fights that they had on Showtime Championship Boxing, starting with the IBF title fight that they had with Jose Pedraza and Kevonte Davis. You had, both of these guys, were undefeated coming into the fight. Of course, Kevonte Davis from, the city of Baltimore, and, was there at 16-0, while Jose Pedraza was coming in there at 22-0. Pedraza did have a fairly long layoff until this fight, but, so did Kevonte Davis. I mean, you did have Davis fighting at DC Armory on April 1st, and that card, being the undercard for the Adrian Broner fight against Ashley Theophane. But he fought 2 months later over in the Seminole Hard Rock Casino, and then they got this matchup here against Jose Pedraza for the IBF World Super Featherweight Championship. And it looked like, at first people were expecting Pedraza to try to keep distance with Kevonte Davis. But Davis was coming out there in the first round fairly active, throwing a lot of punches, throwing a lot of combinations, and catching Pedraza with those. And so it was looking like Davis was fairly successful with that in the first 3 rounds or so. But Pedraza was able to weather the initial storm there in those first couple of rounds, first 1, 2, 3 rounds. And then he was looking like he was a little bit successful there. But in the middle of that, he was having those spurts where he was just standing there and taking punches, or, having his guard up. And so, while he was doing that, it was kind of like he was allowing Kevonte Davis to get off. And so even though they had a, fairly big 5th round there where they were able to go back and forth, Davis still seemed like he was getting the most out of it, and ended up hurting Pedraza going into the 7th round. And then once that happened, he was able to open up and then get to score that 7th round knockout that was called by the ref, even though Pedraza got up at the count of 9. So now we have the new IBF champion there at super featherweight, Kevonte Davis, at 17-0 with his 16th knockout. So I want to get your takes on that, and just wanted to let y'all know, bringing in area code 813 on the line. Just state your name, where you're calling from real quick, and then I'm going to get to world rank and what he thought about the fight. So 813, what's going on with you?
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Terrell calling in from Tampa. What's going on?
True, Terrell. Glad you called in. All right, world rank, what you got?
All right, so you guys are probably going to get into details about the actual fight. I'm not going to talk about the fight as much. I'm going to kind of gloat a little bit. on this show, the show that we had with the Brona Steve, we had there was a question that was asked to the panel about who did we see the future in boxing was. And I brought up Javonte Davis. So I'm gonna give Mike Grady and Terrell some flack because at that time we were talking about I guess we were talking about prospects, and I brought him up, and you guys said that, and this was like, maybe his last fight or the fight before that, where his defense wasn't going to be, you can see him getting knocked out in the next level, and this was clearly a step up, and he did the business. So I'm gonna gloat a little bit because you guys gave me a little flack when I mentioned his name. You guys said, his defense wasn't tight and he might get knocked out on the next level. He stepped up. He beat a world-class fighter. Pedraza was in there trying to win, and he made him look ordinary. So, I'm going to gloat a little bit in this victory and let you guys take over.
All right, Mike, what you got?
I'm saying, is this how we starting the 2017 year off? I thought it was supposed to be peace, love, and happiness. We bringing up stuff from last year.
You did mention Joshua, so I had to get that.
No, so I honestly I didn't. I watched like the last two rounds of the fight because when I came home, I had forgot that the fight was on, so I didn't see up until the fight. So I would have to ask questions and just trust y'all opinion until I watch it. But no, definitely. Him closing the show like that, and it looked like, at least in that last round, Pedraza was using his head as defense and just standing still, and Javonte just was teeing off, and I was just like, wow. So I don't know what happened to lead to that point, but yeah, you definitely got to give a man credit for doing what he needed to do and closing the show. But I would ask you guys, did he get touched? And not taking anything away from his win, if he was against a more powerful puncher, and so the first question, did he get touched? And if he did get touched, if he was against a more powerful puncher, would that bode well for him? What do you guys think?
Well, real quick, I'm gonna say that. Real quick, I will say that he did get touched a little bit. He did get caught with some shots by Pedraza.
And did he take him well?
He does have to work on his. He did have to. Yeah, he did take him pretty well. Later on in the fight, he kind of, predicted, what Pedraza was going to do and was able to move his head and move his body a little bit. So there was like spurts where he had Pedraza missing a good number of shots. So while he did get tagged a little bit early in those first 3 rounds, once he got a little bit more comfortable and more confident, he was able to improve on his defense. All right, Terrell, what you got?
Well, in regards to what Top Rank said, I don't know if I necessarily was that negative on this prospect pick back then of Davis. If he says so, I'll take it in stride, whatever. But really, I'm really surprised that. Well, I won't say surprised. I'm glad to see that this fight is finally coming to pass, and I didn't see the fight, so I'm really relying on you guys. What I want to hear about is, I've read about it at this point, but I want to hear about. Basically, seems like almost like a class mismatch that I was informed of. So can you guys comment on the speed difference, power difference, and command difference that Javonte Davis showed in the fight last night? And just everything I've been reading so far is like it's a class thing. He looks like he's a class above. So, and keep in mind, this guy only has 17 fights. So he has. I know, and like you guys are saying, he probably took some hits and stuff like that. But keep in mind, this is only 17 fights in. So that defense is going to get better as your quality of opposition comes up. So, like I said, if you guys can comment on his speed, command, and things like that, then what makes him looking good going forward?
Just real quick, on that. I mean, I saw him very good in reference to his speed, but it was like I said, he got more comfortable. He got more comfortable when, the later rounds, were going on. So he did have that good start in the first couple of rounds, like I said. But the overall production, as far as landed punches, kind of dipped in the fourth and fifth round. He had 12 punches landed in the fourth round, according to CopyBox stats, and 16 punches landed in round 5. But that, picked up in round 6 and then in round 7 as he was able to land 33 of 64 shots in round 6 and then 32 of 50 shots in round 7 to, finish the job against Pedraza. So, I think he was able to, do fairly well there. It's just that, we got to see, what he's going to be able to do against other competition there in that particular division. So, that's my basic take on that. I was just seeing here overall stats. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
So, in terms of his speed, it is elite speed. In terms of his speed is Lomachenko's speed, or I can't really. There's nobody else in that division or close to that division that has his type of speed. His type of speed is a different level. His power.
Gary Russell.
Gary Russell's speed maybe a little slower, but not much. Power. I think it's not great power. It's not one hit or quitter. It's more of a concussive power. He does need to work on his defense. He also needs to be a little more consistent in his attack. The fourth round, I think, was a round with Pedraza. I guess he changed his style, and he had maybe his best round of the fight. And he really dominated that round. Pedraza did. I don't know if Davis gave that round away or he was just tired. I don't know, but that round just seemed that was Pedraza's biggest round. Davis came back and dominated the rest of the fight. But being consistent every round is probably something he needs to work on. But one thing about the division he's in, other than Lomachenko, for me, like right now, even though he beat Pedraza, I consider him the second best fighter in the division just with that win. I know there's Salido and there's other guys in there, but I don't think they can match his talent, match his speed. I don't think there's anybody else there but Lomachenko at 130 to really challenge him. So I think the next couple of fights are going to be questionable fights. Guys where he's going to – lesser guys than even Pedraza, because there's really nobody to me on that 130 level besides Lomachenko that will really challenge him. Sosa won't challenge him, I don't think. Who else is in that division? That
Corrales, Francisco Vargas, Corrales, and Orlando Salido.
Yeah, Salido and Vargas are on the other side, so I don't even really see those fights happening. But just the guys that I think he'll be in with. Maybe they'll give him what's the Philly guy name? He's won a lot of fights, but he hasn't really beat anybody. Speed guy, got the crazy
Farmer.
Yeah, they might put him in with him.
Yeah, Farmer. Yeah,
but
they were thinking about that. That is a potential matchup.
Yeah, it's not really much else there. So I think the next couple of fights are kind of going to be step back fights. So I don't know if we're really going to see, him be challenged in the next couple of fights.
Right.
So to your point, as far as you say he changed his style or something happened in the fourth round, at the end, the announcers were saying that Pedraza made a mistake in how he attacked or through his game plan or attack, and that he was trying to, bang on the inside or whatever I felt like they said. Can y'all speak to that, whether or not y'all believe if that was a tactical mistake and if he actually did do that?
No, well, in reference to Pedraza, one of the things that was pointed out by Al Bernstein and and Paulie Malignaggi is that Pedraza was just standing there and taking shots in the middle of those rounds. So that, they were saying that was a mistake, trying to, allowing Javonte Davis to go off like that and, get comfortable. So I think that was like a mistake by him by letting him do that.
In the second major segment of the Boxing Source radio show, we went over the super middleweight championship bout between Badou Jack and James DeGale. In this segment, we had our thoughts on who particularly won the fight or who had the upper hand in the fight, post-fight comments that came from James DeGale and from Badou Jack, and what success that Badou Jack will have in the light heavyweight division as he intends to move to the light heavyweight division in the near future. Here's what our thoughts were on that particular fight.
All right, now we're basically getting into the main event of the card that was there at the Barclays Center, as we had the super middleweight unification fight between Badou Jack and James DeGale. Badou Jack being the WBC champion and James DeGale being the IBF champion. Those guys were, the top two guys in the super middleweight division. Of course, both of them were in the card at the DC Armory last year, where Badou Jack had a majority draw, against Lucian Bute, and James DeGale was able to get the win over Rogelio Medina. And this fight here was a fairly good back and forth fight. James DeGale had the upper hand early by scoring a first round knockdown against Badou Jack. Jack was open to the punch there while going forward and stopped his momentum, and he was able to go back and be on the canvas. He was able to get up from that and still was able to try to execute his game plan. What he wanted to do was, I guess, try to be his namesake, the Ripper, as he, went to the body of James DeGale and then worked his way up. While DeGale's strategy was to, beat Badou Jack with his boxing skills, his mobility on his feet, and with his head. And he was able to do that, within the first few rounds, but once Jack was able to, catch up to him, score on the inside, was able to get a few uppercuts in here and there. And like I was saying before, get to the body, he was able to drop Jack's guard in order to score, on the head. And there was that first time where he hit DeGale to have DeGale lose his mouthpiece. But then in a couple of occasions, James DeGale, intensely spit out his mouthpiece during the fight. And I think between the 10th and 11th round, his mouthpiece was on the canvas, and the referee didn't notice it. And one of his trainers was able to run out there, get the mouthpiece, and then run back to the corner to put it back there. So you get to the 12th round, and Jack was, able to have the momentum there in the 12th round. He did score that knockdown early in the 12th, but was unable to finish that. And it went to the scorecards with a majority draw yet again, with one judge giving a 114. I think it was like a 114-112, but I could get back to the scorecards here in a moment. I had them. I could just pull those up. You had, trying to see, Glenn Feldman had it 114-112 to James DeGale, while Julie Letterman and Steve Weisfeld both had it 113-113. And so, with that kind of says that if Badou Jack didn't score that knockdown in the 12th round, and even if he, was able to win that round, then he would have had a unanimous decision loss instead of a majority draw. And so I'm going to just go through the panel here to see what their thoughts are reference to the fight. First, I'm going to start off with Terrell on it.
Hey, I'm going to have to defer to you guys for this one because actually I didn't see the fight yet. So definitely guys actually going to defer to you and just listen in for you guys, please. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to go with Mike Grady then.
So I didn't score the fight. I definitely agree with your assessment in that DeGale led early. He was noticeably a lot faster. Like, he was throwing his combinations, and I was kind of wondering early, was he going to catch Badou Jack? Because it seemed like it took Badou Jack a little while to like rev up his engine and start blocking punches per se, because there were a couple of punches that DeGale threw. Yeah, they were awkward, but they were just like barely missing. Like, it was one where he hit him in the middle of the chest. And so, had he put that punch up just like, a little bit, that would have been straight on the chin. And it was a pretty hard punch on the chest too, and it wasn't blocked. So DeGale definitely won early. As the round went on, as you said, he was true to his name, he being Badou Jack, and he started, ripping at the body. And so, I mean, that took the wind out of DeGale's sails. And so you could see that DeGale's game plan was to, as you said, beat him by movement, which, the more fluid guy by all means was DeGale. DeGale was doing things that, to an extent, if he could have sustained that, it would have been okay for him to have a unanimous. But, the fact that Badou Jack was ripping to the body, and later, Badou Jack was just this consistent, just attacker. And so, I mean, I didn't notice him doing anything wrong cutting off the ring. I think he did a decent job of cutting off the ring. And then later in the rounds, he, kept going to the body. And I think at some point he, hurt him to the body, because it was at that point when he hurt him to the body where he started teeing off up top. And so I kind of knew that the knockdown was going to happen, because Badou Jack was throwing power punches, later in the round. And then DeGale pretty much was fading. You could see DeGale fading. And so I can't say how the score should have actually went, but to me, it was a competitive fight without scoring the fight. Like I'm saying this without scoring the fight, but DeGale won early, Badou Jack won late. But the fact that Badou Jack was winning late, and I feel that he may have won. Like I know he definitely, it was a lot of rounds where he did the most work, but then DeGale came up and then he would throw like pow, 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 like this little hard combo. But I wasn't upset with the tie. That's what I'll say, because they both laid it out on the line, and it was like a high quality matchup, again, without me scoring the fight.
Okay. Whirlwind, what you got on it before I go into the stats?
So I thought it was a close fight, but I thought Jack won. He landed the clean, accurate punches. DeGale landed a lot of pity-pat stuff. The knockdown earlier was more of a, it was a jab. It was a legit knockdown, but it wasn't from a power punch. It was just like kind of like when Charlo dropped Julian Williams early in the fight. It was kind of like that. It was like
that was like, different, because that was real. That was a punch that he felt though.
I think Jack felt the punch. I don't think he was hurt though.
Right.
I mean, DeGale, he had the ring generalship stuff. He was boxing from the outside. He was doing some nice things in there, but that body work Jack did, that changed the fight. Jack actually had two knockdowns. He knocked down a ref too. I mean, McCanty had blood on his face. I mean, it was DeGale had a tooth knocked out when he dropped a mouthpiece the first time. It was an interesting fight. It had a lot of different stuff in it. I thought Jack did enough. He did all the clean stuff. I know he probably was fatigued. That 12th round, DeGale was taking a beating, and I give all props to DeGale because he made it through that round. I didn't think he was gonna make it. He was getting beaten around, and I think I think that fight took something out of him going forward. I won't say that that's the end of his prime. I won't go that far, but that 12th round was brutal on him. He was getting beat to the body all night, and then that 12th round, he fought back though. I mean, I give him credit. He was fighting back, even though he was, rolling back. But he fought back, and it was I just think Jack did enough to win, and he keep getting these draws and these close fights. I'm a little mad that that we didn't get a lineal middleweight, a super middleweight champ. I can understand how people can see if you scoring it by rounds. I can see someone saying DeGale won. I can't really see a draw. I can see either. I just thought somebody should have won. I mean, some people say the fight was too good that somebody shouldn't have lost. I thought it should have been. I just hope somebody would have won, and then you get all the stuff with the post fight stuff. But it was a good fight. And I hear a lot of people saying there should be a rematch at 68. If Jack can't make the weight again, he can't make the weight. I mean, you can't, if the guy knows his body. If he says he can't make the weight anymore, he can't make the weight.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the, key points leading up to the fight was that Badu Jack was saying that, this fight here was going to be his last most likely at 168 pounds because it was a struggle for him to make weight. So he was looking towards, going up to 175 and potentially getting fights against, the likes of, Adonis Stevenson and, I would say like Artur Beterbiev. I don't know if he could get some with Andre Ward, not because of, what Floyd Mayweather was saying, but because of, him being advised by Al Heyman and Ward being a product of Rock Nation Sports there. So I'm not, all too certain that that's going to happen. But, going into, what was happening here in this particular fight, Badu Jack, had, more punches landed and a better connect percentage. 31% from 231 punches landed, compared to DeGale with about 28% with 172 punches landed. And one of the most poignant things about this fight was DeGale's stats for the jabs was 4 punches landed out of 149 punches thrown. So he was only able to land 4 jabs the whole fight. And the rest was power shots. And so Jack had outlanded him. He had a better connect percentage for the totals, and it looked like it from round by round. Jack had over a 30% connect percentage in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 10th, 11th, and 12th round, while James DeGale only got over 30% in the 7th, the 10th, the 11th, and the 12th round. So starting from the 5th round on, I mean, Badu Jack was more successful, in that particular fight. And so, like I was saying, with his strategy of going to the body to limit the movement of James DeGale, looked like that was being carried out while James DeGale was the one that wasn't able to fulfill his game plan from, round 1 to round 12. And that's why, I felt that Badu Jack won that particular fight. So I had to like give him the edge in that particular fight. I mean, even with the knockdowns, I would say he's still like close to show out. I mean, I didn't see, much that he was where he lost any part of that second half of the fight. Maybe it was like round 9 or something like that. But still, he looked like he was the one that came out to be the better fighter in that particular fight. As far as like what was said, after the fight, of course, Badou Jack said that James DeGale was doing a lot of running, that he was throwing a lot of punches at his guard, that nothing really significant connected. Of course, he thought he won the fight, finished stronger, and that the knockdown that he suffered was a flash knockdown. James DeGale, on the flip side, was saying, those two were the best super middleweights in the world. That he has huge respect for him. That he thought that he landed the cleaner shots, and that if they were going to do a rematch, that they do it in London. But like Badou Jack was, emphatic about, is that he'd rather, fight at light heavyweight because he was struggling to make weight there at 168 pounds. So he's planning on moving up to 175 pounds. I was just seeing here if there was like anything else that I would add as far as like the immediate post fight stuff, but I don't really see that much on there. So if anyone has something about no. Actually, James DeGale was under Eddie Hearn there. You saw Eddie Hearn there after the fight, but that was his last fight under Eddie Hearn, so he is a free agent.
Hey, if you don't mind,
he's a free agent there.
Can you talk a little bit about Jack, his height, his build, and like I said, he definitely wants to move up to 175, but like I said, I obviously said that it's getting hard for him to make 168. So does he have the build, and what do you forecast for him in going to 165? Would he carry power, more power? Can you just comment a little bit about that, like that, his specs, please?
Well, his basic specs, he's 6'1" with a 73 inch reach there. So he's there. He's fairly tall, there, but so he's able to go up against those other guys there light heavyweight, because he's matching with the top guys that they have out there, the Andre Wards, the Sergey Kovalevs, and the like. So he's already like taller than those two and has a longer reach at the very basic things. So at least he's able to do that. But my thing is, Badou Jack is a slow starter. He's been known to start slow in fights and then eventually pick up later in the fights. He did that against I think he did that against George Groves back a couple of years ago. And over here in the DC Armory, he started slow. So I think he may have to change that up. Yeah, against Darrell, he did that too. Yeah, you're right. So he's going to have to change that if he's going to be facing the likes of a Adonis Stevenson or something like that. I think he may have to fight, somebody like a Eleider Alvarez, or maybe from far if he's still out there, if Thomas Williams is still out there. He may have to fight those guys first in the light heavyweight division before moving on to challenging for those light heavyweight titles.
Mayweather in the post conference, he didn't mention. He mentioned what their future plans was. He didn't mention anyone else at 175 other than Stevenson. He didn't mention Ward. He didn't mention Kovalev. He said we're going for Stevenson. I don't know what that means if that's going to happen, but Mayweather was very particular about in the post conference saying that they're going out to see Stevenson.
Yeah. I think Stevenson is like lining up to fight either Alvarez or they were trying to see if they could get a fight in with Joe Smith. So that may be in the month of April or May. So they were in the works of making that happen here. So maybe if that does take place, and Badou Jack might need something to stay busy with before moving on to fighting Adonis. And I think that he needs to, fight a top contender first before, going after the lineal light heavyweight champion in Adonis Stevenson.
Yeah, I don't know. I question if the bigger guy's gonna knock his head off. Like, don't get me wrong, he can do it with, the smaller guys, and, his defense is, as Bernstein mentioned, is pretty good. He don't get hit that much, and I think he's pretty technically sound, But I don't know. He does get hit, and, if he get hit by Adonis Stevenson or Kovalev, Ward, he'd be probably okay. But on them big heavy-handed guys, I don't know, man. I just question how the outcome will be. Thing moves up, and he can be the same guy he is now at a higher weight, then yeah, he'll be okay. But who knows? I don't know. I think it's hard to extrapolate that.
Yeah, especially like when Badou Jack, like I was saying before, has had his slow starts, and he did have that TKO loss to Derek Edwards, back in 2014. That nobody really expected that to happen for him. So, either he has to see if he's going to be able to fight those type of guys there in the light heavyweight division before being considered as one of the top guys there in the sport or in that particular division there. So, that's pretty much my feelings on that one there, because I just don't see him just going right into fighting Adonis Stevenson and having that much success against him, because Stevenson has power in both hands. He is fairly active with his hands too. So, I mean, I don't see how, I would even pick Badou Jack to win a potential fight between him